Okay, for those Americans and people in the world who are too brain dead to figure it out or don't know history, Isis is the mother of Horus, and Horus is the Egyptian eyeball that they keep showing to us as the symbol of the Illuminati. Isis nursed Horus into existence, and Isis will be used to nurse new nation states in the Middle East into existence. I'm calling it out right now. Isis was the mother of Horus in Egyptian mythology. Of course, they want us to think Isis is just a convenient acronym for for some sort of militant group that spans two countries. Okay, if you want to believe that, that's fine. Well, of course, they're telling everybody that Iraq's about to be split into three countries. They didn't come out and say it, but that's exactly what they meant. And this whole ISIS thing, this ISIS, the militants of Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. ISIS. What's ISIS? ISIS? That's Egyptian god, isn't it? I think it's a little too coincidental that this acronym happens. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria just happens to work out as ISIS, which is an Egyptian thing, and we know that they're just completely obsessed with Egyptian stuff regarding rebuilding the whole world and the new world order, or whatever you want to call it, but they're obsessed with Egyptian stuff, and ISIS is the mother of these new nations. And so it's funny that Iraq, or ISIS, I mean, it's militants in Iraq and Syria, and they're supposedly really well armed. And in this news clip, this is the interesting thing. Watch this. What do we see driving through here that ISIS has? Oh, yeah, American Humvees, state of the art. Millions of dollars in American Humvees driving towards the camera here. Just like what we saw in Libya right before it totally fell. So what we're seeing here is NBC Nightly News, which is just a media arm of the military, is telling the dumbed down American people that Iraq, via ISIS, the Egyptian god or Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, is about to be split into three regions, countries. Could be autonomous regions, or they could be actual nation states, probably nation states. And they're telling us it's going to happen pretty soon. That's what the media is doing, but they're not coming out and saying it. So because the U.S. Citizen sheeple can't be told that ISIS is actually just a completely created group, that it's completely funded by the U.S., they always have to be stealing all of the stuff that the U.S. gives them, such as the Humvees. And get this article, Washington Post, ISIS just stole $425 million, Iraqi governor says, and became the world's richest terrorist group. What are the odds? Wow, they just stole $500 million just like that. Man, I wish I knew how to do that. The many stunning revelations, the wreckage of Mosul on Wednesday. Blah, 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 extremely rich. $425 million ISIS. They got all of our Humvees and all of our equipment. It's such a fucking joke. I mean, come on. $425 million they just stole? Became the richest? No, they stole it, that's for sure. They stole it from us, the US taxpayer. We got bent over, and our government sent $425 million or did some little back deal. And now ISIS, the Egyptian god, aka Syria, Iraq joke group, has 425 million, just like they have all of our Humvees. Man, these guys are good. These guys are really good. Okay, so here's going to be the news clip, but when you're watching this, understand that they're acting like ISIS is some sort of an enemy force, when in reality ISIS is bought and paid for and completely created by the United States and NATO. And also watch how they just act like they're subtly saying that, oh yeah, Iraq's not successful because it's in these three ethnic regions, when in reality what they're saying is, or what they're laying subliminally is, that they're about to split Iraq into three different countries, and they're going to use ISIS as an excuse to do so. And ISIS will inevitably spread into Syria as well, and will be an excuse used to finally take out Bashar al-Assad.
Overseas now, government forces in Iraq today launched an assault against ISIS militants holding the city of Tikrit, while clashes south of Baghdad reportedly killed dozens on both sides. All this on the anniversary of another war.
Good evening, Lester. The fighting is especially heavy in Tikrit, and for the first time, the government is reportedly making progress. Lester, a lot of people see what's happening right now in this region as fundamentally complicated, and it is. But to understand it, you need to understand something about World War I. Many of the nations in the Middle East are creations of World War I. Their borders drawn by Europeans during World War I, and they were drawn badly, and we're seeing the consequences of that in the conflicts right now.
Terrorists taking over parts of the country. Baghdad in lockdown. The country in danger of splitting apart as a religious war spreads like a plague. In many ways, it all traces directly back to the shot heard round the world, the murders carved up by Britain and France, who drew new borders with little regard for old ethnic and religious divisions. What is now Iraq was created from three Ottoman provinces, one Shiite, one Sunni, one Kurdish, the same regions that are now breaking apart. What is now Syria is just a shadow of what it was under the Ottoman Empire. It was carved up too.
So quick pause here. It's important to note that they say these regions were drawn really poorly, and then they mention that they're now breaking apart. So you can bet your bottom dollar that they are about to split these into three different countries. Continuing on here.
The Sunni militant group ISIS is now fighting to recombine those areas under its command. Instability that has its roots in another war a century ago. The Middle East is violently reverting to what it was before.
The map Europeans drew for the Middle East 100 years ago is fading, and a much older system of ethnic and religious divisions is returning.
So anyway, this is just kind of a video pointing out how ISIS is a complete creation of the West. It's just a little too coincidental. They suddenly have a lot of our Humvees. They just captured them, quote unquote, and they happen to be from Iraq and Syria, two different countries that we have a vested interest in militarily attacking, and that they're suddenly driving our Humvees around. Whenever you see that happening, you know that they didn't capture them, quote unquote. They didn't capture them. We don't just have our Humvees sitting around. It's like, oh, they got captured. No, we gave them to them. And it's a lot easier just to say that they captured them, and they keep capturing all these weapons, and they keep capturing all the flags and the special uniforms and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we gave it to them. Because this is where all our tax money is going. It's going to paying all these militias and all these fake little groups and calling them freedom fighters or terrorists or whatever, and it's about controlling both sides of the conflict and getting what you ultimately want, which is the division of Iraq into three countries and the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm calling it out. Iraq will be in three different countries within a year or year and a half at most, and ISIS will be used as an excuse to increase activity in Syria, or they just will be used as a proxy to attack Bashar al-Assad. And they might probably supposedly attack Israel as well, which will be used as an excuse to attack ISIS in Syria, which will just be an excuse to use bombing runs over Syria. which will just hurt Syrian government positions. So, anyway, it's interesting. ISIS is fake. ISIS is run by the U.S., and it's just a very poorly veiled attempt at making it look like there's some sort of rebel group. That's all this video is about. If anybody really believes ISIS is real, let them see this video. They're fake. They're totally U.S. proxy. They're backed by us. They were created by us, and it has an Egyptian background, which is just another little thinly veiled New World Order attempt at tongue-in-cheek joke. Americans are too stupid to figure it out. There you have it. Have a good one, everybody.
Can you feel it? A sort of anticipation growing stronger and stronger? Another way of putting it is time is speeding up. I've heard that discussion for a while now. I know most people have felt it at some point, maybe while watching the news or perhaps something in their own lives. Something big is about to happen.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. The way Bush has done it over the last 8 years, added $4 trillion by his lonesome, that's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.